South Africa's number one career choice isn't medicine, law, or engineering anymore. It's crime. And not just petty crime, oh no. We're talking about industrial grade, fully funded, corporate level crime that makes the average law abiding citizen look like an unpaid intern. Crime here isn't just a problem, it's a lifestyle. It's a norm as mundane as waking up, brushing your teeth, and dodging them load shedding schedules like nobody's business. Let's talk about crime as a career, right? The real economy in this country. Take Emalahleni for instance. Last night, a group of ATM bombers decided that breaking the law was more lucrative than the usual office hustle. What's the big deal about Excel sheets and morning routines when you can just earn your paycheck in a fraction of the time with a little dynamite and some nerve? The ATM bombers engaged in a shootout and 5 of them met their maker. While 5 of them met their maker, that was only the tip of the iceberg because South Africa sees cash in transit robbers almost weekly. These operations are running like military campaigns. They have teams and intelligence funding escape plans. The only thing they don't have, performance reviews. Or maybe they do. Hey, you missed the last heist. Deducted 10% from your cut. Now let's talk about stats that speak. Let's get real for a second. Crime here is so rampant. It's practically a statistical genre. Did you know that South Africa has one of the highest crime rates in the world? In 2024 alone, there were more than 10,000 reported CIT incidents, and those are just the ones I bothered to talk about. Some experts estimate the crime industry generates billions annually. That's right, South Africa's underground economy could rival its legitimate one. Just think about that for a second. While the average citizen fights over crumbs, these guys are feasting on the whole loaf, complete with imported butter. Now let's talk about the crime Olympics. Picture this, a parallel universe where criminals receive awards, and the gold medal for ATM bombing goes to Emalahleni's finest. Why not? With the level of sophistication these operations require, they'd put most corporations to shame. They've got HR. And if they don't, then who recruits the drivers, gunners, and the lookouts? They've got logistics. If not, then how do they plan the heist and smuggle the loot? And let's not forget R&D, because those explosive techniques aren't downloading themselves off of YouTube. So when did this become normal where I live? You know things have gone sideways when people don't flinch at hearing about a shootout in broad daylight. Oh, 5 suspects dead? That's Tuesday in South Africa, bro. Emalahleni, really. Crime has seeped into our consciousness so deeply, it's just another thing to deal with, like potholes or Eskom. And speaking of potholes, have you noticed they're a criminal's best friend? If you're a police officer in a high-speed chase with a criminal, one wrong turn, and your car is stuck in a crater the size of the Table Mountain. And guess what? The cops can't even keep up with the criminals. Because let's face it, even if the potholes weren't there, the criminals have more time and energy to figure out how to make a quick exit than the average police officer trying to get home before dinner. The whole thing's like a bizarre version of the TV show Survivor or Total Drama Island. Only instead of voting people off the island, you're just trying to survive the heist, avoid getting shot, and then vanish into the night like it was all part of the plan. And let's be honest here, it is part of the plan. These guys aren't amateurs. They've got maps, they've got cars, they've got contacts, and a long list of escape routes that probably come with please do not chase stickers on them. It's big business, my friends, and you're the sucker if you think the law-abiding citizens are the ones making the big bucks in this country. Now let's talk about why crime is a full-time job. Let's take a second to look at how deep this criminal culture runs. Crime in South Africa isn't just a side job, it's a full-time career. When you've got high school kids pulling off hijackings in broad daylight and elderly citizens carrying bags of cash to the bank, you've got a cultural shift. Don't think for a second these kids are just poor, misunderstood souls who have to do it. No, this is an industry, and like any good business, it has its own marketing strategies, employee benefits, and senior positions. They are not operating out of desperation, no, they are operating out of opportunity. They are making a living of exploiting our system, and they are doing it better than most of us. While you're trying to get your quarterly report approved, they're laughing all the way to the safe house. Do you want to know why? Because in this country, crime is where the money is. The government can't even get the potholes filled on time, but the criminals, they've got an organized network with a map to every ATM and a plan to evade the authorities at every damn turn. In fact, These guys probably have better retirement plans than you and me. They don't need to worry about tax cuts or failing pension schemes. They've got cold, hard cash and the connections to get their hands on more of it. So while you're sitting there filling out forms for your annual tax submission, they're out there filling their pockets with stolen goods, watching the chaos unfold like they're on a Netflix special or watching the season 2 of Squid Game. Now let's talk about why crime is the real economy, because I want to break it down further. If crime were a business in South Africa, it would be one of the most successful industries in this country, if not the most. It might even have outgrown some of the other traditional sectors like agriculture or manufacturing. Look at the sheer scale of it all. From armed robberies to car hijackings, ATM bombings to drug trafficking, every corner of this country has its own form of employment in the crime game. So what's the annual gross profit from these criminal activities? You could compare it to the earnings of entire corporations because the scale is immense, and I'm not even joking. Don't even get me started on the global network they operate through. There's a reason why international law enforcement is constantly involved in cross-border investigations. Crime in South Africa doesn't just stay here. It's global. They don't need to worry about offshore accounts. They've got the whole world to play with. Now let's talk about the crime Olympics, what the world doesn't see coming. Because you ever think about how criminals might have a different mindset? What if they have their own Olympics? Think about it. They're entering a race, a heist, a game, and their sport is called how many ATMs can you rob before you get caught? Imagine the gold medal ceremony. The bank managers don't even have time to grab their pens. They're too busy trying to track down the missing money. Crime is a game of skill. There are no shortcuts. You need to be quick, you need to be precise and smart. And believe me, these guys are not stupid. They've mastered this craft. They've studied the art of heists, the geography of the city, and the habits of the cops. And why not? They've been doing it for decades. What's sad is that the average citizen doesn't even know the game is rigged against them from the very beginning. And the only time they realize that is when they've retired. The best part, the criminals don't even need to attend training seminars or conferences on how to break the law. They've already got the experience and the resources. Criminals don't need a degree to pull off their operation. They just need a getaway driver and a good plan. There's no workspace harassment in their world. It's just a well-organized heist. So how normal is it? Let's talk about crime in daily life around here. You know how they say crime doesn't pay? Well, apparently someone forgot to tell the criminals that, because if anything, crime in this country has become a lucrative business, and the people running it seem to be doing just fine if you ask them. Sure, there are some occasional shootouts and failed robberies, obviously, but when you're making millions a day from hijacking trucks and smuggling goods, what's a little gunfire between friends? The fact that we now consider this level of violence and criminal activity to be the norm in South Africa says a lot. A shootout, the public yawns. Another ATM explosion, it barely makes the evening news. Armed robbery, just another day in the neighborhood. Maybe even school kids are walking past that. And the truth is, we've all become desensitized to it. We laugh it off now. We joke about it. We joke about crimes and we move on, and that's the problem. Because crime has become so ingrained in our daily lives that it's just a part of the daily routine. Like checking the weather forecast or filling up your car with petrol. Now let's talk about the broken system, our system that fuels crime, right? Because we need to talk about the bigger picture here. How does crime become such an accepted part of life, you ask? Simple, because the system allows it. South Africa has a systemic issue. South Africa has a systemic issue with law enforcement and corruption. Corruption runs deep through the ranks, and so does incompetence. You ever notice how the criminals seem to always be one step ahead? That's because the people that are supposed to stop them are too busy collecting their own katinyana or failing to get anything done. Take the police, for example. They've got a budget for everything, except for actually stopping crime. The guys who should be catching the criminals are just as guilty of taking bribes and ignoring the bigger issues. And let's not even mention your politicians who are too busy cutting deals with criminals instead of fixing the country's infrastructure or creating opportunities for job seekers who are too busy putting money under their mattresses instead of helping all these pregnant children. It's become a multi-layered, deeply embedded issue that touches every part of society, right from the bottom of the barrel to the top of the food chain. Now, here's the call for change, right? You want change, so what needs to happen, Summer? Now, here's the thing. If we are to break this cycle, it's not going to be a quick fix. Except that it's going to take more than just a police crackdown or a new set of laws. We need to have a shift in mindset first of the entire country. So what am I saying? I'm saying, first of all, we need to stop romanticizing crime. We need to recognize that it's a problem. It's not an opportunity. It's not a way of life. It's a death sentence for this country's future. People need to understand that crime is not an acceptable option. The system that supports it needs to be dismantled, and law enforcement needs to be restructured from the ground up. They need to stop working with criminals and start working for the citizens. Simple as that. That's all they need to do. But let's not kid ourselves. Getting there won't be easy. The system is too broken, and the criminals have way too much power. They don't just control the streets, they control the government too. The government are criminals, and that's the real tragedy here. Because when the system is this corrupt, the crime doesn't just become a norm. It becomes a business. It becomes the engine driving this country. So here are my closing thoughts. The silent truth no one says anything about. Let's wrap this up, alright? You're not just a spectator in the circus. You're part of the act. You can choose to sit back and let crime run the show, or you can choose to get involved in making a real difference. You're not going to fix this overnight. But you can start by recognizing that crime is a business, not a mere inconvenience. It's making more money than the average person in this country, and that's the reality you have to face. Crime is part of the fabric of South African life, but it doesn't have to define it. It's time to start treating it like the destructive force that it is. And until the rest of us wake up, until the rest of you wake up, criminals will keep cashing in. Because in South Africa, crime isn't just a way of life. It's the most profitable career choice in town. Goodbye.